Hello. Hello. Okay. That's better. I don't know why, but OBS apparently decided to not see my microphone for a minute. I don't know why. It just does that sometimes. Just this. I don't know. Anyway, hello. I'm Sean, librarian, writer, geek, doing another little let's look at a tabletop game. Um. So this is actually this is the one I was actually planning. I had considered looking at last week. Initially had planned to look at last week. Didn't end up looking at it, but unfortunate, and was looking forward to doing it because I was hoping that I would have my physical copy, that would have been delivered by now, but it seems that I don't know. It has not been delivered yet. Hopefully, it will be here soon. I rechecked the Kickstarter page for this. This is another game I backed on Kickstarter, and they are saying it will be here sometime by August. August of like this year, I think, is the fulfillment they initially planned. Maybe I don't know, but yeah. So hopefully it'll be here sometime in the next 2 weeks. I don't know. I kind of wanted to be able to pull it up and go like, ooh, look at this. Look all the stuff in the box, but that's not the case. But I still got the PDFs, so you know, unfortunately, I don't can't like hold it and flip through it, but I can still show off what I have so far, and uh, they have actually finally released the uh, the virtual tabletop stuff. At least I think for Foundry. I'm not sure if they've released it yet for Roll20, but I did pay at the level I backed the Kickstarter at was also the yeah sure we'll give you some VTT uh, stuff for that. We'll give you that as well because that's because virtual tabletops are my primary means of gaming these days. So hey, cool. And they did release all that stuff. So I do have that at least. So I can as much as I've been flipping through these PDFs and going like, ooh yeah, yay. I haven't really been able to play with it and test it out yet, but now I do, and I've played with it and tested it out a little bit, and it's all right. I mean, I haven't done not a ton, but it works. Anyway, so Dragonbane, or that is apparently the chosen translation they've decided to go with. I feel like the more I think the more actually I'm gonna look this up because that's just the kind of person I am these days. All right, because I feel like come on, yeah, Dragonbane. That is not what I meant. Okay, there we are. Okay, right, they have it in the Swedish name. Yeah, okay, the Swedish name actually translates to dragons and demons, which makes a lot more sense, but I don't know. I guess the decision to change it is because DOD is a little too close to D and D in English. I don't know. regardless, regardless, this is yet another. This is another game I backed on Kickstarter, and it's. I got the rule books and I got the stuff, and it looks really really cool and really really fun. And honestly, there's a lot about this game that's like I've been for years now. I've been kind of tinkering with the idea of like, okay, my ideal role playing system, and this is probably the closest I've seen to that. And I'll explain why later. But so I say it does a lot of great stuff. So there's a lot of things I love about it, and yeah, and it's a free league game, free league, and I've come to associate free league is, at least to me, like, okay, anything they put out is at least worth a look, even if it's not necessarily a game I intend to buy. I generally have an idea that, like, right, this game is going to probably have some really fun, interesting or it's at least going to have some pretty solid mechanics. The art is going to be in the book is definitely going to be something worth looking at into. Just it's definitely going to be something interesting and different. Well, interesting, maybe different, maybe not. Not. It's going to be something cool. It worth a look. Um, I feel like it's worth mentioning. Yeah, again, I did back this on Kickstarter, and the reason I backed it on Kickstarter is because I had known about Free League. I actually heard about them uh, from backing their Forbidden Lands Kickstarter, which is another game. Game uses a different system. It's also a kind of dark fantasy tabletop game. But I part of the main reason admittedly the main reason I backed that is because the art was just so cool. The art and the style they were going for was just so very cool and so very different. It's not like this. It's not like I'm not. Not that the art in this book in Dragonbane is bad, but it's not. It doesn't have the same vibe. Anyway, but yeah, so I backed this on Kickstarter, and I backed it at the level where I got to get stuff and look at things early and all that. And you know what? I like it. Like it. My only regret right now is that I don't have my actual physical copy in my grubby hands. I I thought I would have it earlier today. I hope there was a moment where I was like, ooh, package got delivered to package got delivered. Is it maybe my thing? Is it maybe please maybe? No, it was not. Oh well. It will come eventually. It's at least in the country, which is what matters. Anyway, let's actually get into looking at this thing. It's yeah. Again, so this game specifically, I love this cover design. I love this art. I'm kind of sad that that's not the art they went with for the rule book, though I don't know if the PDF for the rule book is like just scans of the interior. It wouldn't surprise me if it is, but it kind of makes me sad. But there's there's gonna be some stuff. So, but let's get into it. All right. So, all right. Yeah. So this is the first page of the Dragonbane rulebook. Uh, if you're looking at this and going like, why is there a duck assassin person? I don't what's going on. Yeah. So this character is what's they're called a mallard. That they are one of the options that you can pick in this game, and if watching that makes you go has drawn your attention in, congratulations, you're definitely pick this up. It definitely least when I saw it initially, I kind of got some eyebrow from me, like, oh, okay, interesting. But yeah, so let's get into this. Okay, but hey, nice, lovely credits, wonderful stuff. Again, yeah, definitely loving. Again, love the art. There's the artists. Love their stuff. Loving their work on this. I know they've done some other stuff with Free League as well because it's a similar style has been used in other products, but it's very cool. Anyway, so yeah, I believe this is the final PDF, or at least the one they finally released, because you can find this on DriveThruRPG. You can buy this stuff. You can buy the starter set on DriveThruRPG. And it's another one of those handy games where it's like, oh, right, here, everything you need, all the rules and all that stuff are in one nice book. Yay. And it's not even like a huge amount of pages. It's like, again, it's like 100, almost close to 120 pages. That's not like too much. And I think, yeah, it's only like, you start getting into like the 80s that you actually hit stuff that's most of the stuff is like it's rules and stuff for the players. So let's get into it. All right. And again, and also, right, it's linked PDF. There's there's a table of contents. It always makes me happy to see that. I know it's dumb, but it does. It makes me really happy when I can click through stuff. I can like open up PDF and just scroll to the table of contents and just click through to where I want to be. It's great. I love it. All right. I went back a page. Okay. Yeah. So preface is actually kind of gives some little background on this. So this is not technically the original version. This is not the first version of this game with this under this name. This here is the Swedish name, but this was this is the latest iteration of a game that came out in the 80s. I'm pretty sure they're not really using. They're not necessarily using. I don't know how. I don't know how much of the original content they're using for this versus. How much is new versus how much is new, how much was. Yeah, how much of this is new, how much of this is original. And yeah, so right. Anyway. Sorry. Glasses. Okay, so right, we get first really good look at some of the art, lovely chapter art. It's kind of stylized, and I like that. I honestly like that the art is. It's not like going for the super realistic. It's actually going for a very stylized look. I don't know, that just seems really cool to me. There's actually right there's a little bit about the backstory and the setting and whatnot. Not because there is a specific setting for there's a specific published setting for this game. I believe it's called the Misty Vale. I don't know. And while Free League has released a license to create content for Dragonbane, which is awesome, by the way, I do believe that this specific one is like, okay, right, you have to set it in our setting, you have to use our rules, so it's a little frustrating that, like, okay, you can't like make your own thing. You have to, this one you have to set within our bound, within our, we're setting more bounds on this, probably because it might have something to do with licensing. It wouldn't surprise me if it did. Anyway, obviously we had the opening stuff, basically laying out here's what gaming and playing this game, yada yada yada, yada, basics, dice, etc., etc. Like that they include this stuff. Like, hey, yeah, we include, yes, if you want to play this stuff online, we totally have support for that. You can buy stuff from us to make playing online easier. Additionally, hey, if you don't necessarily have a group to play with, we included some rules to play if you want to just play a single adventurer, a single solo person and doing stuff. And admittedly, I feel like it wouldn't be too difficult to adapt these rules into like kind of one player, one GM setup. Because I feel like the major rules change, the major rules changes, at least the rules or the rules changes wouldn't make that too difficult. But the content they actually created for that would maybe not work, not so much. But again, if you could literally just slap these rules onto the stuff they've actually published intended for more group play, and it could work. Yeah, again, hey, play safe, be nice, respect your players. Be nice to your players. Don't go like intentionally trying to upset them. If they're bothered by something that happens in the game, then let them be. They don't need to. If they're saying like, hey, I don't want this particular thing in the game, then hey, then say, okay, cool. The obligatory what is a role-playing game thing. Obviously the quick here's what all the abbreviations mean. Most of them are pretty straightforward if you've played any other game, but hey, another lovely bit of artwork. It's so cool, so very very cool. Yeah, here's what the optional rules and sidebar stuff will look like. And here's something that, if there's a GM screen included, I hope this table is in there, because this is important. This is potentially very important, and unless like just going through it, it can be a little confusing. Namely, the difference between a stretch and a shift. Like, okay, I know that like stretch is longer than a round. They're both longer than a round, but it's like, okay, I feel like I might confuse, like, okay, a shift is supposed to be like 6 hours and a stretch is like 15 minutes. Okay. I don't know. Just the kind of thing that feels like I would forget that. I am inclined to forget that. Again, Chapter 2, actually talking about player characters. Great. Again, more artwork. I love that there's so much, I feel like there's a lot of character in each of these, even though it's like just a single piece of artwork. There's just some of these little details and whatnot. It's very cool. I love it. All right. So, all right. Starting out. Okay. Yes, they do. We do mention that. Hey, yeah, we included some pre-generated characters in the box. If you just want to jump it right in. I did happen to find a fillable PDF sheet, which is when I really, for this game, which really made me happy because honestly, PDFs are my preferred method of doing character sheets. I don't particularly like writing stuff out on sheets. I don't like doing it by hand, mostly because it's like, okay, will I be able to fit this in the space allowed? How am I going to have to abbreviate this? Is it going to be ugly? Am I going to be erasing stuff and that's going to get just ugly? So, but, when I found that, I really started digging more into this one of my ways of wrapping my head around a system is to go, okay, how do I make a character? Let's go through the character creation process. And this one actually, this gives you, Dragonbane has some nice tables if you want to do it randomly, but maybe not. If you don't, that's fine too. You can always just pick your option. Anyway, all right. So first up, they don't have races. They have kin, which is nice. I don't know. It's another one of those. It's a little. Hey, yeah, it's the 21st century. It's 2020 something. Yeah, okay. We need to change we're going to change the terminology because this is your genetic stuff. That's fine. Hey, what's maybe a little less icky? Kin. Sure. Kin also does have some special innate ability. Does grant you an innate ability. He usually requires spending willpower points, which are one of your two willpower points, which I think you get. But yeah, you get willpower points, and you use willpower points to activate special stuff like your innate ability. There's other stuff you can use them for as well. Yeah. Okay, yeah, apparently stuff about languages. Yeah, we're not going to get into like writing down, do I know this language? Do I know that language? Just, hey, yeah, everyone has speaks the same speaks common or whatever. If you if you really want to understand other languages, there's a skill for that. Okay, quick look through the different ones. Human, obviously, have to include human. Unsurprisingly, yeah, they went with the right. Humans are really good at adapting to strange and different situations, which in this case means, hey, you can use a different skill when you're for a certain test, and that'd be cool. As long as you can justify it, costs you 3 willpower points to do that. Let me see. We have halflings, dwarves. Halflings thing is obviously, hey, being able to avoid. You can give yourself a better chance of avoiding an attack. Dwarf. You get to do extra damage. You get a better chance. If someone has done at least a point of damage to you, you can spend 3 willpower and get a bonus to increase your odds of getting a hit against that individual. I love that. It may be wise to write down the names of everyone who harms you so you do not forget them, because it literally is like, if they have done at least a point of damage to you at any point while playing this character, at any time, doesn't matter if it was like 6 sessions ago, doesn't matter if it was at the beginning of the campaign. Nope. Dwarves do not forgive slights done to them. Okay, obviously we have elf. Elves. Hello. Uh, Dragonbane. Yeah, this is the new. This is the new fantasy tabletop game from Free League. We're just getting into it actually. It's it's fun. I like it. I haven't gotten to play with it much yet. I'm really looking forward to getting my physical copy. Hopefully, it will be arriving soon. Anyway, elves obviously elves are elves. They are one of the few that has their special kin ability. Literally costs no willpower, but it's basically like, right, sure, you can. When you're taking a 15-minute rest, you can meditate and heal some extra damage and regain some extra willpower points. You get to do extra stuff, but yeah. And Pompous Pricks, potentially, yeah. But, they are what they are. Yeah. Okay, now we get into the first of the kind of weird kins, and that's the mallard. As you can see, they're duck people. Yeah. No, no, elves will not know the beauty of the mines, alas. Anyway, mallards. Yeah, they're duck people. Yeah, they are definitely something worth looking at. They're definitely something special. Unsurprisingly, gee, wow, what's their they actually get two. One of them is like, okay, cool, you get a swim speed, which is situationally useful. But of course, the one that costs 3 willpower is, hey, yeah, kind of. Maybe a little more Donald though, because again, their ability is called ill temper. And it's like, okay, cool, you get advantage on a roll, but in doing so, you get the condition angry. And you also can't use this roll for any intelligence or intelligence based skills. So it's like, huh, interesting. Interesting. Where did we get that idea from? Anyway, and the last of the kins, at least the last one in the core book, is Wolfkin. They're wolf people. Big surprise. Their thing is their special kin ability is like, you can you know be able to track a creature that escapes you that you yeah, yeah, I know. So yeah, Wolfkin, they can track things potentially up to 24 hours. I, they're not werewolves; they're literal wolf people. Like they're always like this. It's not no. Anyway, all right. So, all right, Dragonbane doesn't exactly do classic. Well, it's kind of weird because it's a skill based game. It's a skill based system. We'll get into that in a bit, but there's still sort of classes in the profession thing, but profession really is more like, okay, what skills do you start with and what special heroic abilities do you start with? But beyond that, you can basically make any kind of character you want. Except I don't think there's no way to like gain magic or to learn magic unless you're playing a mage. I'm assuming I would be willing to assume that there's going to be like some kind of expansion that includes a here's how to here's a thing that lets you learn magic later on. I'm sure they're going to release that because that's a pretty basic idea. Anyway, yeah. We have 10 professions, which is interesting. Yep. I'm gonna play this solely for the merchant class. Yeah, we'll get to the merchant class. It's definitely interesting. So right. Yeah, yeah. There you go. So yeah, you got artisan, which is hey, you make stuff, which is you make stuff. Presumably, you can also repair stuff, which is kind of handy because equipment in this has durability ratings, especially weapons. So like being able to fix stuff without having to go back to town or whatever, kind of nice. Bard. Bard is more of the performer type, more in the sense of more in the performing type rather than the also doing magic type. Definitely the very social, very much the talking to people and doing that sort of thing class. Fighter. Yeah, fighter is a fighter. It's fairly straightforward. You hit the things. It's great. Like yeah, every class. So like every profession has this list of skills, and it's like okay, you have to pick 6 of these skills to be proficient in. Fighter skills are like all weapons except for one, except for evade, and that's also a very combat focused skill. So yeah, fighter is literally the hey, do you want it? You're the combat person. You're the person who hits things and makes them die. It's great. Compare that to Bard, where it's like, okay, there's some social stuff, like bluffing, performance, persuasion. There's also knowing things like languages and myths and legends, that kind of stuff. So, the idea. Hunter. Hunter is basically ranger in that it's the person who spends all their time out in the wilderness and is maybe a little more focused on ranged combat because their this skills are like are bow bows and not knives and slings for weapons. um it's not a bad thing, especially because they also have your special heroic ability is to get an animal companion for at least a short while. So, yeah, clearly it's a ranger basically. Knight. This is kind of neat and interesting. It's not. Again, paladin isn't a thing, but this is more the. But knight is definitely the more so than the fighter is the heavy arm. You wear heavy armor. You use melee weapon. You use weapons. You maybe ride a horse. I don't know. And I think but you're also like maybe know things or have some social skills, maybe. Of course, mage. Mage, you cast spells. Mage is actually the only class that doesn't actually technically have a heroic ability because instead you have magic. That's your heroic ability. That's your special thing. You know how to use magic. And there's 3 types of magic they include in the core books. That's elementalism, which is it's fire and earth, and cold and all that stuff. There's mentalism, which is more. I think that's maybe a little more like buffing, debuffing. I also know like scrying, divination. I think that also includes like teleportation and that kind of stuff. animism, which is druidy, which is the most druidy, I guess, type of magic. In that it's dealing with plants and animals and nature stuff, but it also includes like healing, and oddly, all the lightning spells I think are in animism. So it's animist is power of nature type stuff. Elementalist is like harnessing the was it the classical elements, classical Greek elements. Mentalism is it's power of the mind. You get the idea. Mariner, I'm not 100% sure why they included Mariner as a class here, especially because the Misty Vale, there's no ships. I feel like there's not a lot of ships. It's in the mountains. It's a valley. I'm a little confused, but maybe there will be content later on that makes this class feel more viable. I don't know. Seems like kind of an odd choice to include. Merchant, as you mentioned, yeah. Merchant again. It's a lot of talking. There's also some talking, finding treasure, sleight of hand. Interesting. Not going to say that means anything, but it certainly raises some questions. Certainly is worth thinking about. But hey, presumably this is another one of those. Yeah, sure. I want you're good at finding money. Sure. Scholar, which more so than any other class I think is the stuff and you can maybe find some stuff, but also your big thing is you know a lot of things, which is potentially useful in this stuff, in this setting, that kind of stuff. Thief. Thief is a thief. It's fairly straightforward. Usual sneaky thief stuff, all that. And of course their heroic ability is backstabbing, unsurprising. And that's for the classes. I do kind of like. This is not. Forbidden Lands does this too, but there's there's an age. There's an age for your character, and there's kind of this trade-off between like especially if you're picking your age, there is a trade-off between, do you want to go with a really young character? Do you want to go with an older character? Because on the one hand, if you go with a young character, you don't get as many trained skills, because every class, you have your 6 that have to come from the list for the class, and then you get bonus skills that can be from whatever you want. So young characters don't have as many skills, and they are all they're all almost exclusively going to be from their profession list. But they get a bonus to their agility and their constitution, which is handy. Whereas an old character gets to have more skills. They have as many bonus skills as they do profession skills. But they take a penalty to their strength, agility, and constitution, but their intelligence and willpower get a bonus. So I feel like that doesn't quite balance out well enough, but yeah, whatever. And speaking of attributes, standard method of doing attributes, roll 46. Rule 46, keep 3. 3 attributes are fairly standard ones. You can basically grasp what they are. All right, strength, constitution, agility, intelligence, willpower. I like that they have willpower instead of wisdom because I feel like wisdom is a little wonky at times. It's a little confusing, especially compared with intelligence and of course charisma. And then there's a bunch of derived stuff derived from that. So like higher agility, like your agility affects your base movement, which is kind of important when if like you're using an actual table or you're using a minis and stuff to move your characters around and get positioning and whatnot. Not so you don't necessarily want to have a really low agility because that can really hurt you. But also, if you have a high enough strength or agility, you get a damage bonus. Strength for melee attacks, and agility for ranged attacks. I do like they make hit points and willpower points really simple. Hit points is simply okay. Your max number of hit points is your con score. There, done. And your willpower points, which you can spend to activate different abilities and such, is equal to your willpower. Easy. And this is where things start to get a little weird because so each of those 6 attributes, actually not necessarily each one, but several of them, most of them, I think except for hit points and except for constitution and willpower, the rest are tied to different skills. And whatever your score in that attribute is, that determines your base chance. And this is where it kind of building a character gets a little wonky because it's like, wait, there's no clean math. There's no like nice clean math here, and that's admittedly a little concerning. That's a little annoying. But oh, sorry. But yeah. So that's your base chance is determined by your attributes, but for your trained skills, which are the ones like from your profession and the bonus ones, that's double the base chance. At least as a start for starting out, it's straight up double your base chance. Okay. Yeah. Okay, right. Magic. Heroic abilities. I'm not. They include weakness as a thing to note about your character. Oh right, yeah. Play. So yeah, it's another. It's a way to get extra experience and stuff at the end of a session. But heroic abilities are it's special things your character can do. There's a whole list of them. I think you always start with one, and you gain them either through getting a skill up to 18, which I believe is the max you can actually get a skill up to, or by like the GM just decides, okay, you did something particularly epic, particularly heroic, whatever, so you get to select a new heroic ability, which is nice. Gear, yeah. Again, Dragonbane does the nice simplify the inventory system by just saying, okay, you have slots. You have a certain number of slots. I think it's the number of slots, number of gear in your inventory, which is basically like in your backpack, is equal to your strength score. And any weapons you have ready to go or armor that you're wearing does not count as being in your inventory. There's also, some items are like so small that it's like, it's not even worth. They don't really technically take up any inventory space. I didn't know that. Okay, and of course, one other piece of equipment you could have is a memento, which is just like, it's maybe it means something. Maybe it's a thing to use as a prompt for role playing. Fun times. Again, over encumbrance, we kind of just covered this with the inventory. I like that they, random thing. I do like that it's like, yeah, we're not gonna don't bother tracking like ammunition. That's dumb. It's stupid. Don't do it. We're not gonna do that. Get certain items are considered to be heavy, and they take up multiple inventory spaces. And again, we have tiny inventory spaces where it's like they don't take up any space. Coins get a little funky, I guess, because it's an encouragement to encourage you to spend your money instead of hoarding it. Appearance, yeah, okay. They have a random table for like if you have any particular notable thing about your appearance, but whatever. So, all this done. You've got your character ready to go. Okay, you play the game. Okay, how do we get new experience? Well, okay, it's pretty simple. So there's no levels in this game. Instead, you try to, you advance your skill. You advance your skills like after every session, or you try to advance your skills after every session, and you go for that. Every time you play, so basically, like, yeah, if you roll a dragon or a demon, which is basically either a critical success or a critical fail, you get to check that skill. And you check that for every skill you roll a critical success or a critical failure on. And then, you answer some questions. And for every question you answer, you get to check another box. So, like, okay, did you participate? Did you go to a new location? Did you defeat some dangerous enemies? Did you overcome an obstacle without using force? That's definitely an interesting one there. And, hey, did you give in or presumably play into your weakness if you're doing that as an option? And then, like, at the end of the session, you mark up different skills. These are free. These ones give you like a free extra box skill you can check, and then you roll a d20 for each skill. And in that case, you want to roll above the skill, and every time you do that, you get to bump up your skill by 1. Other ways to do that are spend at least, you spend a shift, which again is like 6 hours training with a teacher who either is very skilled, has having a skill of 15 or more in a particular skill, and of course, and that they have to have a higher skill than you do, because why would you go to a teacher whose skill isn't at least better than you? There's a restriction of you can only get a teacher to raise your skill level once, because they can only teach you so much. Okay, magic. So yeah, you can improve a magic skill the same as every other skill, but actually learning new spells is a whole different thing. And again, getting new heroic abilities, you either increase the skill to 18, or the GM says, "Hey, you just did a really, really epic, cool thing. You just super accomplished whatever. You get a free heroic ability. Boom, done." All right. So quick look at the skills again. Love this art. So cool. Very nice. I dig it. All right. So quick rule on the mechanics. Okay. So I noted earlier about the base chance and the base whatever proficiency of a skill and the trained proficient ability of a skill. Oh, and this is a skill based game rather than a class based game basically. So the way Dragonbane works is basically right. You roll a d20. If you're rolling a skill, you're rolling a d20. You want to roll. I believe you want to roll under your skill, whatever your skill is, whatever your skill level is. I think. Yeah, you want to roll at or under your skill level. So, like, if you have a 12 in, swords, you need to roll a 12 or lower to succeed on the roll. For the roll to be a success. So, easy. Dragon is a 1, which is basically a critical success. Gets you some extra cool stuff potentially. Rolling a 20 is called a demon. Rolling a demon. There is an option to push a roll. If you push a failed roll, that basically means you're like I think that's saying, okay, you're gonna impose an intentional penalty on a particular set of skill on a ability, and that gives you disadvantage on all rolls related to that. I think. Once you roll the dice, you may only roll again or achieve the same. Okay, right. We'll get. Okay. Yeah, here we are. Okay. I've tossed out terms like boons and banes before. Basically, in D&D parlance, this is advantage, disadvantage. Only kind of reversed, but whatever. A boon is, roll 2 dice, take the lower result. You want take the better result. Lower is better. Bane is roll 2 d20s. Take the worst result. Higher is worse. Boons and banes cancel each other out. You get the idea. Let's see. So pushing a roll. Okay. So yeah. Fail an skill or attribute roll. You can choose to push it, meaning make another attempt. New result applies, whatever it is. If you have boons or banes, you have to re-roll those. You cannot push a critical fail. You push a roll immediately after the re-roll. You suffer a condition. You get a bane on all rolls for skills based on a certain attribute and rolls against the attribute in question. So basically, you're imposing a penalty on one particular set of skills, whatever that might be, in exchange for getting like another chance to roll a success on a roll, get a potential success on a roll. Can't choose a condition you have to explain it. Once you have all 6 conditions, you can no longer push your rolls. This will provide inspiration for role playing. Yay! You can heal from conditions by by resting. Only PCs can push rolls, NPCs cannot. Monsters cannot push rolls, NPCs cannot push rolls. Easy. I think opposed roll is, succeed, your action succeeds. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, opposed rolls, see, it's pretty straightforward. Someone roll. Opposed rolls basically make sense if you fit. If your roll fails, it doesn't matter. Though, you can push to succeed. You can push to try and get another roll if your roll fails, and if your roll fit. Okay, yeah. Yeah. You get the idea. Okay, skills. There's a number of them. Most of them are pretty straightforward. It makes sense. That's what they are. Best beast lore, potentially handy to identify things about animals and monsters. Bluff bushcraft is useful when yeah, thank you. I'm very much liking it. I really do prefer the roll under a skill whatever type stuff, because that makes it more obvious, like, okay, do you succeed, do you not succeed? You don't less concern about, like, makes it a little more player facing. Again, bunch of different skills. They stick all the weapon skills together because they're actually in their own separate space. Okay. And and I'll admit I do find it kind of interesting that staves, whatever, is an agility based weapon rather than a strength based weapon. Probably because I think staves are one of the few weapon things that mages will definitely have. So I guess it's like, okay, or that they will probably have. So it's like, okay, sure, let's make sure that the mages can at least do something with weapons, because all your spells cost willpower points to use, and you can only have so many willpower points before you need to stop. Okay, you have different heroic abilities. Obviously, we can bump them up as time. Yeah, sorry, not bump them up. Obviously, you gain more of them if you manage to various ways to get them, as explained earlier. Some of these are kind of, let me see. So we had, and again, because this is not technically a class-based system, most of these are, so like, companion is the hunter starting heroic ability, but anyone can technically get hunter or take the companion ability as long as you have a hunting and fishing skill of at least 12. So, that's not too bad. I am noticing, like, pretty much most of these require having some skill or whatever at a 12 or higher, which could be a little difficult to get, though. I feel like you're probably gonna. Okay. Yeah, but sorry. That's cool. So obviously you're going to be might be leaning towards getting, um, oh, yeah, yeah. There's a nice list of stuff. There's obviously some crafting stuff, which I think comes down to, shifts. Right, shifts are 6 hours, so yeah, mostly like, hey, if you have materials, you can craft some new piece of equipment. Okay, oh, that's neat. Oh, oh, there is a way to learn magic if you don't have it. Aptitude for magic and learn a new school of magic, whether you already know any or not. Spells need to be learned separately. Do a merchant who's acting as an alchemist. I don't know if that's a. I don't know if there's any. I don't believe there's a brewing skill or whatever, but I don't know. That sounds like more of a role play thing rather than any actual. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to actually look through this stuff. But again, I'm really kind of surprised. I'm honestly a little surprised. It's like, oh wait, yeah, actually there is a thing where you can, if you're not starting as a mage, you can actually learn magic. There is already a thing for that. I had completely forgotten that. But again, that would require that. Getting that is probably going to require either a good chunk of time, because I think the highest you can start with at for a beginning skill is a 14, and after that, and so it's either playing at least 4 sessions, realistically probably more, to get any one skill up to an 18, and then roll it, and then taking this, or like doing something really cool and impressive. But yeah, so those are heroic abilities. They're nice. Yeah, combat. Yeah, I might. I don't know, depending on how things shake out. Because again, I do have. Okay, so I know I'm not going to be streaming on the 27th because that's my birthday. But I think the third is when Baldur's Gate 3 drops, so I'm not going to be able to play it then. So I don't know. I might show off this stuff in action. I don't know. That's something to think. It's something I might think about. Okay. So real quick, you don't roll for initiative in Dragonbane. You draw cards instead, and you draw cards every round. So that is at least potentially interesting because it can shift things around round to round. Okay. Various types of stuff. We have free actions. We have a various different types of actual actions you can take and interestingly, yeah. So you bit in combat, you get an action, and you get a bunch of free actions, and that's it. But you can also do stuff as a reaction, like dodging an attack, trying to avoid getting hit, parrying a melee, or parrying an attack, whatnot, all that stuff. But that, and you can do all that as a reaction, but reactions use up your action, and you can only take a reaction if you haven't gone yet that turn. So, like, there's there's a bit of a trade-off there of, like, okay, do I avoid taking damage this round and not be able to do any damage, or do I take the hit and be able to hit back? It's definitely interesting. Okay. Yeah, sure. Various free actions that you can take. Like, you can move up to. You can move up to your movement rate in meters or whatever. A couple different things. You can't move past standing enemy who want enemy. Yada yada yada. You're standing within 2 meters of an enemy and then move away from that enemy. You must make an evade roll. Okay. Roll doesn't count as an action, but if it fails, the enemy immediately gets to perform an additional melee attack against you as a free attack. Free attack does not count as an action and can neither be parried nor dodged. Free attack is triggered even if you start your movement at a distance but pass an enemy. Moving around an enemy does not trigger a free attack. Okay. So enemies get the option to get attack of opportunities, but you don't. Or presumably, wait, what is reaction? Parrying or dodging attacks, use your own turn around means you cannot perform a reaction if you've already had your turn and performed an action. Okay. So yeah, so enemies get to basically make the attack of opportunity, but you do not. So sucks to be you, I guess. Combat maps, yeah. Maps, terrain, again, nice epic artwork, epic combat artwork, very cool. And oh boy, it gets a little more complicated into range versus melee. I think big stuff. It's like okay, things to kind of make note of that might be worth noting. Long weapons basically have double the range, so it, instead of being like in the one square next to you, there can be like a square away. That is potentially helpful. Score a critical hit. Critical hit, double the amount of damage dice. You need to perform a second attack against another alternate. You can double damage dice, perform a second attack, or ignore armor. Because armor has, in addition to making you harder to damage, armor also soaks damage. Possible effect options of rolling a critical fumble in melee, and yeah, it's none of this is especially complicated, but it is like it's potentially like, right, okay, I need to think about this. It's if you're coming from a different system, you might need to give it go like, oh right, I can do that, or I can't do that. If your parry succeeds, enemy attack hits your weapon or shield, you suffer no damage. However, damage exceeds your weapon's durability. The weapon is damaged and cannot be used until it is repaired with a crafting roll. Okay. Piercing attacks can never damage a parrying weapon or shield. Interesting to note. But I think... Okay, that's rules for parrying. Yada, yada, yada. Dodging, alternatively, that's also a thing. There's been mention of monsters. There was mention in the last section as well. So monsters are a certain type of enemy. These are like the big nasty creatures and whatnot, and they don't do like normal attacks. They do special monster attacks, and yeah, so like you can't parry a monster attack unless it is specified, but you can dodge a monster attack. Let's think. Okay. So they mentioned stuff about piercing damage. One thing you can do with piercing weapons is you can take the find a weak spot attack, and that will basically yeah, okay, so you take a bane on the attack, so you're rolling at disadvantage basically, but you ignore armor if you hit. So that's kind of nice. That's kind of cool. And again, all of this, and I think all of this stuff has been incorporated into the virtual tabletop version. So that makes it really easy. Makes it much easier, at least on me. Range attacks. Parrying a range attack requires having a shield. Otherwise, you're trying to dodge. Obscured targets attacks against obscured targets are made at disadvantage. And on the grid map, you can shoot past a person standing between you and your target, but with a bane. Ah, okay. Damage. Right. Okay. So, mentioned this earlier. So, armor. Armor has an armor rating. As an armor, take damage from physical attacks. Subtract armor. Different types of armor have different armor ratings that is basically absorbs some damage. If damage melee attack is completely negated, the attacking weapon itself suffers damage instead, which might break the weapon. Neat. Helmet also, provides armor. Death, and not gonna get into the I think roll against con. Death cannot be pushed. Record the result of death roll on your character sheet. After 3 successful death rolls, you recover d6 hit points. After a failed on 3 fails, your character dies, etc. Severe injuries, fun. Different conditions. Again, mentioned healing conditions can be done on a stretch. Okay, you can heal one condition during a stretch. A shift heals all your conditions. So, maybe. What else? I agree. If we're getting close to the end here. Various hazards, of course. Yada 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 yada. Nasty little goblins. Riding animals, improvised weapons, yada yada yada. Magic, I'm honestly getting... Yeah. There's a lot more to this, obviously. And there's a whole chapter on gear that's mostly just tables. and the bestiary, which I'm not even going to touch. But yeah, so let's pop back here. All right. So yeah, that's Dragonbane. I'm very excited that it's out. I like it a lot. I kind of want to. It's one of the many game. It's a game I would very much like to run sometime. I potentially have stuff to run it, but uh, I don't know. I think it looks fun. I'm very excited that it's out. I can't wait to get my hands on it. But yeah, I don't know. And that again, it's a free league game, so it's definitely good. It's a solid game. Solid. It probably play. I'm sure it plays very well. Even I don't know. I played with it a little bit. I think last week. I don't know. I played around with it recently on Foundry. I kind of like. I think it's like okay. It took a little fiddling with, especially because virtual tabletop. But other than that, yeah, it's. I like it. I don't know. Depending on how things are, again, depending on how some things shake out, I may or may not decide to go one day to go. Hey, I'm gonna run some Dragonbane stuff just to show it off. Who knows? But yeah, it's getting late ish for me. I need to be getting to bed soon. So until I will be back. Well, I'll be back tomorrow with more Dragon Age. We'll be finishing up Leliana's song. And I don't know, possibly, I don't know, depending on how long that takes, we may or may not be getting back into main game stuff, mostly side questing. But, I don't know. We'll see how that goes tomorrow. Next week, I don't know. Next week I might be back with something different. I might be switching to playing games on Thursday, playing another game on Thursday. We'll see. I don't know. So until then, I guess I'm gonna find somewhere to send people watching, but otherwise, good night. Hope you enjoyed this, and see you around. Bye.